Hello and welcome to a fairly late episode of First Impressions. I mean, it's 2 weeks after the album came out, actually over 2 weeks, and so I'm sorry about that, guys. Before we get into it, I just want to, once again, like I do, give you guys some info on where the channel is. I've been very busy the past couple weeks, so I haven't had the opportunity to work on stuff for the channel like I might want to. But I've got some stuff coming, so don't worry. I've got a review of an album an album by an artist that I've never talked about before for Halloween. I've got hopefully another Alice Cooper video I'm gonna do, but most importantly, I have a Patreon video that you should see up by Tuesday or Wednesday. Fingers crossed on this. But anyway, new Primus. This is an album that kind of crept out under the radar, you know. There wasn't a whole lot of hype building up to this. They just kind of announced, I think, some point in over the summer, I want to say. The kind of summer I had it all, just kind of, it's all like a haze, you know. And it all...
Sorry, I'll shut up.
It all kind of vanished into the haze. But they dropped those two singles in fairly close succession. And now the album came out, September 29th. I've listened to it 3 times, like I do when I do these videos. And I'm here to tell you what I have to say about it. Now this was an interesting one for me because I'm past peak fandom for Primus. You know, the peak fandom for me was 2015. That was like, I was listening to every Primus album. I was like, yeah, everything they've done is genius. You know, I was fanboy levels maxed out. But then that kind of dissipates like it does over the ensuing years. I realized that I didn't like anti-pop or the Primus and the Chocolate Factory album very much, and I'd say I like anti-pop a little more than the Chocolate Factory one, but it's hard to say. You know, it's hard to say. So when this was announced, I was like, oh wow, new Primus, huh? Because I legitimately thought we were gonna have to wait another like 8 to 12 years for them to do another album. It's a fluke that they did Primus and the Chocolate Factory so close after Green Naugahyde, but turns out it wasn't. Now, musically, the album is very, very prog. This is easily the most prog thing Primus have ever done. People have always compared them to Rush. People have always compared them to 80s King Crimson in particular. But Primus have always like tempered that with other stuff. There's always been a lot of funk. There's always been a lot of like weirdness, you know, Residency, kind of Frank Zappa-y kind of weirdness. But most of that's gone here, and so you have a very focused, very concentrated, very, very prog album. There's not a lot of goofiness. In fact, there's hardly any goofiness on the album, aside from like just Claypool's Elmer Fudd kind of Residence type vocals. Like, seriously, if you haven't checked out the Residence, go listen to their albums, especially Meet the Residents and Duck Stab, Buster and Glenn, I think is the name of the two out. Yeah, it's an album is 2 EPs fused together. It's the long and the short of it is one of the Residents guys sounds exactly like Claypool. Like, it's almost creepy. That's pretty much all that's there to ground the weirdness. It's all like conceptual proggy stuff, and most of the humor is sapped out for this record, which I can understand because it sounds like the source material is fairly dark, because this is, after all, a concept album about goblins that kill rainbows and drink their colors, trying to find the source of all rainbows so they can have happy hunting basically for all eternity. But the rainbows are smarter than the goblins, and they drag them in and drown them, is basically my understanding of the story. And it fits with that really dark thing that Claypool and Primus have been doing since they got back. because I mean, but you could also make an argument that they've been doing that since the late 90s, because I mean, Brown Album is pretty dark. Antipop is a little lighter, but there's still some really dark stuff on Antipop. That little EP that they did in the mid 2000s, which is probably what this reminds me of the most, which I suppose makes sense. The sound reminds me of a cross between the Animals Should Not Try to Act Like People EP and the Primus and the Chocolate Factory album. Like, it's got that kind of more chilled out stone side of the Primus and the Chocolate Factory album, but it's also got the some of the jerky weirdness of the Animals Should Not Try to Act Like People EP. And it's also very short by comparison to other Primus albums. It's actually only, I think, 5 or 6 minutes longer than that EP, which I know I recommended it in one of my previous videos, but seriously, if you've not heard that EP, check it out. I mean, maybe listen to it on YouTube first, because it seems to be out of print or something, because it's running pretty expensive on Amazon and eBay these days, the last time I checked. But I was lucky enough to find it used for not very much money at all in a music store I go to, so there was that. But it's a fantastic EP, very well thought out, really fun, really dark and drugged up and weird. And that's really kind of how this album is, you know, dark, drugged up and weird. Really, now that I think about it, ever since Primus came back the first time, they've been pretty dark, because I mean, there's that EP, and then Green Naugahyde had like a fun surface veneer, but you peel that surface veneer off, and Green Naugahyde is a really dark, really glum album, because the songs about the guy not being able to fish anymore, the tragedies of coming, stuff like the stuff about decrying society today, and the bad roads that we were headed down in 2011, which, oh my God, talk about being able to laugh at that now, because now that things have gotten so much worse, you know. And just to go to last year, you know, the Monolith of Phobos album from the Claypool Lennon Delirium, also really, really dark, you know. Bubbles Burst, Boomerang Baby. The song I'm not going to be able to remember the name of, about the girl like addicted to pills and heroin. It's just really, really glum and dark. And I don't know whether that's because Claypool's getting older, and that's kind of the mood that you get when you move into middle age and realize, wow, I'm not going to be here forever. But it's definitely been a theme throughout his work for the last couple of years, and I like it, but a part of me kind of wants the fun back. But at the same time, you know, people grow, people change, you know. He gave us some fantastic, silly, fun music when he was a young guy. Maybe he wants to be dark now, you know? But yeah, overall, I rate this album 9.5 out of 10, 10 out of 10. Maybe not going to be my album of the year. It's hard to say. You know, I haven't heard much from this year, and I'm looking to rectify that in the following months. You may see some catch-up reviews in the coming months of albums that have come out this year that I did not rate when they came out. So be on the lookout for that. Like, among other things, I want to maybe review the Gorillaz album that came out, maybe the Mastodon album that came out. I've been considering a joke first impressions of the new Weezer album when it comes out, because if you know me, I don't get the appeal of Weezer. It's certainly not past the first two albums. You know, I like Blue, I like Pinkerton, But I don't really see the appeal of Weezer in 2017. Now, to contrast that, I have a friend who absolutely loves Weezer and insists that they are good right up to the end of their discography, and as a joke, I've been considering reviewing the new Weezer album. I also want to talk about, like, maybe the new Mastodon album, or because, as some of you may remember, I actually really like Mastodon, and while I haven't been a fan the last couple years, because everything they've done after Crack the Sky just really turned me off, but I hear good things about this album from the people who I follow who also like Mastodon. But yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I highly recommend the album to you. It's really good, and it's a fitting return to form for Primus, you know. Like I said, I was a little disappointed by the Primus and the Chocolate Factory, but this is a very worthy follow-up to Green Naugahyde. And so, yeah, see you guys in the next video.